What's going on? Welcome back to the Victory Podcast. This episode we have on Councilman Aaron Rouse. Aaron just won his at-large bid in Virginia Beach for City Council. But before that, he was a standout safety for the Virginia Tech Hokies. And then he had a NFL career between the Packers and the Giants. Since then, Aaron also has operated a nonprofit called Rouses House, which we will get into in the podcast as well. And without any further ado, here's Aaron on his career, how he began playing football, and how those sports skills translated into his career after being a professional athlete. All right. So, I mean, right off the bat, I just need to make sure you do understand that you are the sharpest dressed councilman I've ever seen, and maybe any government official whatsoever.
Well, I appreciate that. I tend to get that a lot, but I guess it's something that comes with the territory.
Well, I don't think too many people are coming into that office or any office with the experience of being an NFL player and really being used to the scene of having to dress nice and so you pull it off very well. It's a very good look on you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We're off to a good start.
Now, of course, we know that you just won your at-large bid for Virginia Beach Council, and but obviously we want to get into that, but we wanted to just start, quite a few years beforehand. Can you just take us back to your, young, 16, 17-year-old kid? You're in high school. You're a football player. How do you go from just, being an athlete to picking football and, ultimately deciding to go to Virginia Tech? How does that all come together for you?
Oh, wow. I think for the most part, growing up in a single parent household where I held down a job since I was 10 years old, started from cutting grass to working in the school bus garage, pumping diesel and school buses throughout the summers, just to be able to buy my school clothes and help my mother out with bills. So I think from that aspect, football to me was just a hobby. It was an outlet. It was a way for me to basically vent my frustrations. Because we really never, really thought about going to college or even having a thought of furthering our education other than high school, because we couldn't afford it. So we were poor. It was just, my mother would just say, graduate from high school. And it just so happens that, through her upbringing, my grandfather's guidance, my grandfather was a World War II veteran. He was the disciplinary for our family. So he would always say, keep God first, work for everything that you want, and your word is your bond. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. He was an Army veteran, and he was basically a disciplinary for our family. I got twin older sisters whose birthdays on Christmas Day. My birthday is 2 weeks later on January the 8th. So we're only separated by 10, 11 months from that. And so I'm the middle child, basically, and I have a younger brother.
Oh, wow.
So really, to me, I was the oldest male for my immediate family. And my grandfather was just like, listen, like, you have to be the young man for your family. I think one of the things that helped me, I shouldn't say help me, but allow me to grow up prematurely and see the world from a different perspective was the fact that at the age of 10, my grandmother died from breast cancer. And when she died from breast cancer, basically Christmas was essentially over for me, because it was very hard for my mother to try to buy Christmas, holidays, birthday presents for our family, being a single parent. And so that's when my grandfather was like, it's time to go to work. And so immediately he just instilled that great work ethic in me from 10 years old. So by the time I got to high school, I have already worked from Farm Fresh, Target, Food Line, McDonald's, the bus garage, working at schools, being a janitor, cutting grass. I knew what it meant to actually to work for what you want in your life. So, when Frank Beamer, Virginia Tech came down, my junior year in high school, it was a surprise for me, for us, especially for my family, because we never thought about going to college or even having getting an athletic scholarship, because we couldn't afford it. The main thing for us was, or for my mother and my family, was graduate from high school, just graduate from high
Mm-hmm.
school. Um, and that in itself would have just been an accomplishment for my family, for my mother to be able to raise a young African American son in one of the most impoverished communities in Hampton Roads, and to be able to make it out. Um, our goal was just graduate from high school. So when Frank Beamer came down my junior year in high school and offered me a full ride, it was like mind blowing. It was like, what? Like, especially after you watch, Virginia Tech and Florida State go at it in the national championship just a year and a half before, and everybody's talking about Virginia Tech, and Michael Vick is a legend in our area, and then now I'm going to have the opportunity to go to the same school. It was, for me, it was like, it was my I have arrived moment, and not necessarily understanding what it all meant to actually go to a 4-year school. So it was a fast learning curve for us as well, but we knew it would have. My mother knew more than I knew. She had the foresight to see that it would be great for our family.
And that's really cool too, because you were able to build that foundation. You might not have known it, but being a young kid working that much, just to help out your family, like that built your discipline foundation for ultimately what would be, a lengthy career in the NFL. Now, why did you choose Virginia Tech? Were they kind of the forerunners, just being in the area that that was just the number one school in your mind, or what was the decision to ultimately go to Virginia Tech?
I think, for me, it was, I started getting all these offers, these letters, my sophomore year in high school. I mean, from Miami to Georgia Tech to Georgia, West Virginia, all these, North Carolina, all these big schools were coming. And, when you're junior, it's like they prospected. They send all their prospect letter out. Virginia Tech was the first one to come and say, hey, like, we want to give you a full ride. I wasn't even a senior. I was just going into my junior year. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, this is where I'm going. I was always taught, you don't leave food on the table.
That's right. That's right.
And so you take it. And I was so glad I did, because of the supporting staff that I had at First Colonial High School. We had a lot of Virginia Tech alumni there as well. And throughout our community, it's a great school. Academics, it's a great 4-year school, great engineering school. And so for me, I was like, all right, all I need to do is take my visit and make sure it's something that I like. But another key factor was the fact that, I never wanted to move too far from home, because I wanted my mother to have that access and ability to come see me play. And so I knew I wanted to go in state. And so I was blessed and happy enough that Virginia Tech.
And that was going to be my next question, was how important was it to be to home? Because, I coach at a local high school here, and a lot of even our kids who are playing D3 ball, like their concern is, my parents have to drive 3-4 hours to go play. So, I mean, for you to be in state and to be home, and just so that short drive, how far was the drive from your hometown to Virginia Tech?
Back then it was 55. It was 55, 60 on the highway.
Yeah.
So about 5.5 hours away from home.
Okay.
And I think what's different then it is now is that I didn't have like social media.
Yeah.
I'm telling my age now, but we didn't have instant, like video FaceTime, and where you could just FaceTime home, and whether you'd be like, okay, I may be 8 hours away or out of state, and I could just video home and see my parent, my mom, but I didn't have that. So my mother dropped me off like
good luck, right?
Really, that was it. That was it. And for me, I turned around and had my son my freshman year in college, which brought on a whole nother level of responsibility.
Yeah. So, you get to Virginia Tech, though, of course, Coach Beamer, a legend, Bud Foster in his own right, a legend. I think he sent over 50 guys to the NFL just on the defensive side of the ball. Indeed. So, I mean, you're working with, two guys that are just at the top of their game. And when you're there too, Virginia Tech is one of the best, if not the best, defense in all of college football.
EBU.
So, and I mean, when you take a close look at your measurables from the combine, you look a lot like this guy named Cam Chancellor, who made a real big name for himself in the NFL. I feel like you were the tip of the spear there. I think they found their mold in you, and then they were able to replicate it afterwards. I mean, do you think you were just a little bit ahead of your time with your, skill set, with your size?
I do feel that way, but I think looking at it, it's about opening doors for others. I remember my senior year allowing Cam and some of the underfreshmen to hang out with us upperclassmen, and showing them the ropes. But I think me being the tip of the spear just foreshadowed to Bud Foster, Coach Beamer, who actually made the decision when I came in and I talked to him and said, "Hey, listen, I don't want to play outside linebacker anymore. I can play safety. I'm fast enough. I'm athletic enough to play in the secondary." And he saw that. He gave me my opportunity. So I think it showed them that big men can move. I'm proud to have opened those doors. But again, there were other guys as well that potentially could have fitted the same mold. I mean, Justin Hamilton as well just got promoted to the safeties coach at Virginia Tech, and he was another big safety. Jimmy Williams, who went in I believe the second round or late first round, I believe, to Atlanta that year in 2006. He was 6'3", 235, playing corner. So I think again we kind of set that trend that size and speed. You don't have to compromise on size and speed. They both can work, and it just so happened that the good Lord blessed me with both.
Yeah, and you're ultimately able to play in the NFL. And then what was the biggest transition for you going from college to the NFL? And this is a question we always like to ask guys, because sometimes it's the playbook, sometimes it's the speed of the game. I mean, I don't think for you the speed of the game would have been too much of a different pace, but how about the playbook or anything else that stuck out to just getting acclimated to the NFL life?
I think getting acclimated in NFL life is just I wouldn't say the playbook or even the actual on-field stuff. It's the business aspect of the NFL that I think that it kind of inhibits a lot of draftees and a lot of guys coming from college to that level, because there's no break-in period to learn what the business is in the NFL. Like, you have to come in and get it right away. That's why it's so important for you to have a team that understands the business side of things, because in the NFL, there's people say there's a learning. I think the quarterbacks are the only one who really get a learning curve. Mm-hmm. They actually get the time to develop and actually learn. For everyone else, it's like you have to hit the ground running, and it's so technical sound that it's all about technique. These guys playing NFL, it truly is the highest level of professional football, because you don't have to necessarily run the 4.3 to be as deadly or mm-hmm. as talented of a player. It comes down to technique, making sure that you're breaking on the ball with sharp angles. You're not rounding anything out. You're where you're supposed to be, trusting in your teammate as well, buying into a system. And I think more so on the NFL, a system really shows or really gives a player a chance to show their talent. So you got to have some good luck too to get drafted into a system that showcases your talent. And I always, I'll just look at a guy I forgot his name. I want to say Asamoah came from the 49ers to the Eagles that year. And he went from playing a man-to-man to a zone, which basically zone wasn't his strength. But to me, he was still the same good player. He just was in the wrong system. So I think systems can either harm or help your career, depending on what type of player you are.
I remember Nnamdi Asomugha was at the top of the game, and in short order changed schemes, and it's almost like they wrote him off completely.
Right.
Yeah, who was another player like that? Albert Hainsworth was another one too, going
Right.
from that 4-3 system to that 3-4 system, and that's where he played in that 3 technique and really dominated. So,
Exactly.
so Aaron, would you agree that there's a lot of talent that's buried just in the depth chart that may never come to light, but they could shine on the field if given that chance? And I know this is going to be an absolute extreme example, but a guy like Tom Brady, may never see the field if Drew Bledsoe doesn't get knocked out. Do you think there's a lot of guys that are sitting second or third deep that could really shine on the field if given the opportunity in the right system?
Oh, most definitely. I think when you look at NFL, no one is there just by chance. No one gets there just by, sheer luck. I think all those guys, all those players put in the hard work, and all of them have a level of ability that it requires of you to make it to that level. Yeah. But again, I think NFL is about opportunity. If Bledsoe goes down, Tom Brady's got his opportunity. He made the best of it. I think that happens across the league, and I think it's if anything, it reinforces the notion that there are no second stringers. Everybody's a first stringer. You're just waiting on your opportunity to showcase your skills, and when you get it, you got to take advantage of it.
Yeah. Now, speaking of that, when you're in Green Bay, you actually are able to witness firsthand a little bit of a changing of a guard in Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre. What was it like for the locker room for you guys to be like, yes, Brett Favre's a legend. This is a first-round pick. Obviously, now in hindsight, we know how it works for Aaron. It was a good decision to draft him. But what was it like at the time where it's just, similar to a situation the Patriots will be in soon?
Yeah.
Can you just talk to us for a second about how awkward that was?
Well, for me, I was the only DB drafted that year. And coming in, I was so ecstatic to be able to play alongside guys like Charles Woodson on the defense side of the ball, and making Al Harris and making sure that I held up my end. But for the most part, listen, Brett and Aaron Rodgers were true professionals. They put all the business things aside, and we concentrated on our play on the field. It was a reason why we made it to the NFC Championship game. And I think, you have to know. And here's I think where guys and then also the media makes it make a mistake at is interfering business during the season. I think for the most part, I think business should be handled in the off season because it does have an effect on the locker room, whether or not a guy's getting played or is a contract year or anything where it comes to the business side. But that's why it takes true professionals like, Brett Favre, and Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers knew his time was coming. It was just a matter of time. And unfortunately for Green Bay, they just didn't know when Favre what he was going to do that next year. But I think Favre led with that in mind that, hey, we're going to focus on, winning throughout this season, and in the off season, there are going to be some tough decisions. So here, the window was very, very short for teams to get it right. But I'm pretty sure a lot of teams will love to have that problem of two solid quarterbacks and which one is going to take over the helm. So
it's a good problem to have for sure. You mentioned Charles Wilson a little bit. Can you speak on him and what was like playing with arguably one of the best to do it at the corner position?
I remember when I first met Charles Wilson, and I was telling him the story. I was like, I was in middle school, and I saw you make that one-hand grab on the sideline. You won the Heisman, and he looks at me like, man, don't ever bring that up. He was like, you was in middle school, but it was truly a dream, come true to play alongside of a man with that much talent. And that, I mean, his keen for the ball and understanding of the game was just unparalleled. And then you couple that with the attitude, the swag that Al Harris had, playing alongside Al Harris. I mean, it was like, I'm in the right place. This is what it's supposed to be like. But he taught me so much and how to understand watching film from a different perspective and knowing basically the ins and outs of defenses, but also the offenses of what routes to look out for, when and where you can basically gamble and take some chances. But his sight and his understanding of football is to me is on par with the Peyton Manning. You know, it's that same equivalence, but on the defensive side, if not better.
Great. Yeah. So, all right. So I want to talk a little bit just about Coach McCarthy here and you know everything that's happened with him. Just you know a quick 30-second, a minute, just insight on your thoughts on what you think that what he's going through and where you think he should probably land next.
Well, you know, again, I think McCarthy had, you know, great success with Green Bay.
Yeah.
But again, I don't want people to understand the NFL is a business.
Yep.
You know, and it's a what have you done for me lately or now type of business. And when you have, sure, if they were winning and they still have those issues or reported issues, I don't know for sure, between, you know, whether it was Aaron Rodgers and Coach McCarthy, whatever the issues may be, if they were winning, there's something they were like, well, we'll work through this. But once you start losing and those little problems become bigger issues, you know, and it's something that you can't see past. From a business standpoint, you just invested over $140 million into your quarterback.
Yeah.
And, you know, potentially, I mean, well, you already said he's the future of your team. And so to me, it just came down to a business decision. You know, where are we now? Where do we want to go in the future? It's, you know, a lot of people complain about the business of the NFL, but it is truly, I say cutthroat, but it's definitely a grind. It's definitely, it's going to keep turning regardless who are in those positions. For me, I thought McCarthy would have landed somewhere by now.
Yep.
But I guess from my understanding, he only wanted to be with a certain organization. I'm not sure how that, you know, how true that is, but he'll be coaching somewhere soon. The man has what, the Super Bowl on his belt. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's got a pretty lengthy resume that can't be ignored. So as we start to transition to the last part here, I just want to talk a little bit about the public office and how football has helped you in that life. Is, you know, at least from a discipline perspective or just working as a team perspective. I mean, how has just football impacted your life with your life that is now in the public office?
Well, I think a lot of people, you know, when I first ran for office, a lot of people who aren't athletes didn't understand how sports will help you in a position of governing, especially when you're talking about making sure you're putting team goals ahead of self goals. Something that I think we need right now at all levels of government. So when I decided to run for office, I did my homework. When I retired back in 2013 and 12, I actually spent 3 or 4 years learning in the General Assembly in Richmond. And here's the thing for kids, and I tell this all the time. I didn't have a job. I didn't have an official job. And I didn't have a requirement to be there. It was all about, you know, I want to be better for myself. I fell in love with understanding politics and governing, and it was about networking. I got the opportunity to go up there to learn from guys on both sides of the aisle, men and women on both sides of the aisle, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to learn. So when I said I was going to run for office, it was like, listen, sports has helped me value and understand everyone regardless of their background, regardless of their race, whatever they look like, whatever they come from, because essentially it's about winning. Politics at the same time, it's about making sure everyone is equal and has a fair chance and has a voice within our government. When you're talking about accountability, and listen, in sports, if you suck out on the field, you're gonna hear from it.
Yeah,
hear from it.
Yep.
Same thing in politics. Like if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, particularly within, you know, local office here, just local, you're gonna hear from it. So there's has to be accountability from there. But I think the most important thing I bring to not only our city, this football has taught me is to be a leader. I mean, we have so many people kick the can around and don't want to necessarily make decisions because they're afraid of this going to affect my career. This is going to, you know, what if I don't get this right? It's like, listen, we have to lead with in mind that every decision we make, we're doing it for the betterment of the people, the betterment of the team. So there's a lot of crossover from sports, from football to politics.
And I was curious, how was it that you decided that politics was going to be the route for you? Because I do want to ask you about Rouse's House, because I know that you have your nonprofit. So it seems pretty clear to me that you knew that you were going to give back to the community somehow, but it was just sort of which way was best for you. So how did this become an idea, and that sort of went out? And then how do you balance Rouse's House, and just if you could talk a little bit about that and how you balance everything?
Yeah. I think it came from the idea of, the old saying, you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. You teach a man a fish, he eats for life.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was about, I started Rouse's House just out of my own pocket, coming back to my community, just giving away book bags, helping out the teachers, making sure I was unifying the police, as well as the fire department, our firemen and women, our first responders, our local business leaders. And I would do that like once a year, and felt as though giving away things wasn't necessarily the way of having the greatest impact within my community. And so then I said, okay, well, I've been going up to Richmond 3 or 4 years. I understand what the political field and spectrum is like. I want to have more of an impact. I want to actually, provide, our teachers and our police officers with higher pay, the tools they need to be safe. I want to actually make sure that our kids, our educational system is one that promotes STEM education, diversity, and let alone that, I want to have our business community actually be looked at as a part of our community, and not just leeches or people just trying to use tax dollars the wrong way. For me, it just came about having more of an impact in our community through leadership and through serving. It's about servant leadership. And Rouse's House, which is just a way for me to actually do that on a grander scale, to say, hey, this is who we are, this is where we can be, but only if we can do this together. And that's what it came down to, doing it with teamwork.
That's awesome. Now, I can't help but look, when you're actually going through the campaign process, but, you see that, Coach Beamer's out there advocating for you. Bruce Smith, another great Hokie out there, part of, just helping to get your, name out there and your agenda. Can you just speak a little bit about Hokie Nation and what it's been like to just sort of, not that you needed that.
Number one.
Hands down.
The best in the nation. Hold on 1 second. You tell that guy we're good. Number one, the best in the nation. I think, hold on 1 second. I think VDOT is coming up. Hold on. We're good. But you know what? It came down to our motto at Virginia Tech, UT Prosum, that I may serve. And it's something that, throughout our college, our university, we always promote is servant leadership and serving our community and serving others, putting yourself, putting others before yourself. And for me, when I called Coach Beamer, I called Frank, and I told him what the endeavor I was about to embark on. I didn't even have to twist his arm. He was like, when and where do you need me? And I think it goes back to where I was just a freshman. I had to go home to take care of my son because I was about to have a son. I had to go home at my freshman year, get a job. I worked concrete. And I told Frank, I said, listen, I'm going to come back in shape. I'm going to be the player you're invested in, and I'm going to graduate from here. And that summer, when I came back to Virginia Tech, I went on to be a freshman All-American. So from that point on, it was like, he's a man of his word. Something my grandfather taught me. My word is my bond. He valued me. He respected me. He made me a leader on Virginia Tech. So when I called him and told him I was about to do it, he was like, I'm on board. Bruce Smith, when I retired from the NFL and I came back home, Bruce Smith has already been in Hampton Roads. Bruce Smith has already faced the hurdles, what it was like for not only minorities to start a business here, but for small business in itself to get up and going within Virginia Beach. He already did essentially the homework and helped me understand what were the challenges and things that I was going to face. So whenever on the campaign trail, when I got tough days, had to go to these farms, reach out to Bruce. Hey, what did you think about this? What is the business community saying about these issues? What's important to them? How can we all unite them? Bruce was always there for me. And so our Virginia Tech, not only Bruce Smith, I go as well as to school with. So we have a lot of following Hampton Roads, and they were like, "Yeah, we need you. We need you." And primarily, it's because of, for me, I think the greatest form of beginning was to be anonymous. Everything that I would do, I wouldn't take a news camera around with me. I wouldn't even say Aaron Rouse, former NFL player, is giving away book bags. I would just do it, and I would make the little flyers at FedEx office, and I would go and I would hand it out on the doors in the neighborhood, because I think like everything I do, it really comes from the heart. It's not about notoriety. It's about how do we change and affect people's lives, living up to our true motto, to serve. And that's the way, I ran my campaign. The political word, I say, is so nasty these days. We have to get away from that. We have to bring back civility, morals. We have to bring back values and principles. I wanted to give people a reason why to vote for me, as opposed to why not to vote for someone else. I wanted to be inspired, that hope, that inspiration, that people wanted to actually get involved, like understand what's going on. And particularly, thankfully, here in Virginia, Virginia Beach, our locale, it's a nonpartisan race. So when I had my kickoff event, I had Republicans and Democrats all in the same room in Virginia, and I had reporters looking around like, how did you do this? How do you get all these people in the same room? Like, where did that come from? Who is this guy? And for me, it's just, I try to get people to understand we're all on the same team. Sure, we may not agree on everything, but respect and civility is always due. And I would remind our presidential candidates, all of them, who are coming out, and some will show undecided, to ever be mindful of the civility, principles, and morals that's always due, regardless if you're getting it in return, because we are held to a higher standard of office.
And that's good too, that you have that in mind too, and that competitive edge that you have from playing football. I'm sure, as opposed to, hey, I need to go out and execute this play. Now you kind of flip the script and say, all right, now I need to execute how to make this community better, right? So it's always that competitive edge in you that I'm sure will never leave you, and that's ultimately what what's.
I can't even think enough. My campaign team, Esmel Meeks, he was a guy who worked on Capitol Hill for 6 years. But here's where it all comes in play. And I always try to tell kids, like, network. Because a lot of times, not who you know. I mean, what you know is who you know. And he was a guy. He was a freshman, and I was a senior at First Colonial High School. And I remember him getting on the football field, and I hit him so hard. Like, I hit him. I mean, I laid him out. But I helped him up. So he was like, he told me about that story, and I didn't even remember it, because I was used to him. People. I didn't remember. He's like, man, he hit me so hard. But you helped me up, and you told me come back out the next day and don't quit. And you made sure I finished. And he was like, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to work with you, because it's just not something you're trying to pretend. You've always been this way since I've known you. And that's what everyone says who supported me. And it's the reason why, I was the top vote getter. I was the youngest African-American to win public office in this city, as well as having over 70-some thousand votes. And our next candidate was 11,000 votes away.
Wow.
So we ran a strong campaign, and I think it's because of the people. I mean, people like to say it was you. I take no credit. Sure, I worked my butt off. Sure, I was up 6 a.m. in the morning putting up signs everywhere. But I think, we have to do what is required of us to see the change that we want. We can't just talk about it. We gotta be about it.
And people see the boots on the ground. When you're actually in the community, and I use the reference boots on the ground. You're not just sitting behind the computer and just putting things up on Facebook. You actually got boots on the ground. You're actually working, putting things on door to door. People take notice of that too.
They do, and I think it gave them pride, because I had a lot of times I was putting up my own signs. People say, "You putting up your own signs?"
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
yep.
I never seen that. It was like you Aaron Rouse. I think the same thing people get when I cut my own lawn. When I'm cutting my grass, they're like, "You cut your own grass? Like, why don't you get somebody to cut?" It's like I love cutting my own grass. I take pride in doing things myself. But
that discipline from early on, man, just carrying you all the way through. It's awesome.
Indeed. And and I would be remiss if I didn't mention my faith. you know, I think for me, my faith is one that has allowed me to be accepting and respectful of everybody. Something that my mother and my grandfather taught me, but my faith in Christ has allowed me to even see beyond that. And people say, well, what most important thing I learned from playing in professional sports is the relationships you make with people. It's not about the money, it's not about the car, it's not about the celebrity, it's not about the level of fame. The most important thing that I get, the most rewarding thing I get, is when someone comes and say, hey, I remember you threw a football with my son, or you stopped in the movies, you had a conversation with him, or you helped my daughter, you know, make this connection on the volleyball team, and you came to practice. I mean, those are like the stories. I think it's the most rewarding feeling like ever. Like it's better than anything that people, well, Instagram would tend to have you believe.
Yeah, that's true, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's safe to say that Virginia Beach is in some really good hands right now, and we're so happy for you that you were able to win the election and you know do it in flying colors, and you know we hope nothing but the absolute best for you in your campaign. We'll be following along, and in the future, if there's anything we can do to help promote any message that you're trying to get out there, any campaigns, Rouses House, we're with you all the way.
Thank you, Chris and Steve. And I appreciate this opportunity, guys. I really do. And thank you for just wanting to hear my story as well. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. And Steve, I think you're on mute there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so where can we find you, Aaron? Where's the best place as far as Instagram, Twitter?
Yeah. So Instagram, Twitter, all Facebook, all verified. On Twitter, it's Aaron Rouse Vibe Beach. Aaron Rouse Vibe Beach on Twitter. Instagram is Aaron_Rouse on Instagram, and Facebook is Aaron Rouse. Follow me all. We're going to have some very, very exciting news coming up for the city of Virginia Beach. I think a lot of people should tune in very, very soon. We're going to have a public announcement coming on the 26th as well. But also, I mean, listen, I want to invite everybody to my city. Come to the city. Come. Let me show you how we do it in Virginia. And we're all about continuing being an opening doors. So follow me on Twitter and Instagram and shoot me any questions you may have.
All right. Well, I guess a victory road trip will be in store soon, but we got to go down there now that we have the official invite.
Indeed. Come down. It's going to be great. And you love Virginia Beach. You already know we got the best and the longest pleasure beach in the world. So you should come down here. We have great times in the summer.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you again for the time, Aaron. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Aaron.
All right.
Best of luck with everything.